All right, so if you watched the video from the homestead yesterday, the bike was running really good till it wasn't, making up some time. But I'm trying to tear it down this morning and make a diagnosis as to what went wrong. First thing I did was drain the coolant, and when I did that, there was a fair amount of aluminum shavings that came out of the drain bolt on the bottom of the oil water pump cover. So that in itself was a little alarming. I watched the video last night because, you know, our devices listen to us. So YouTube was showing me all kind of KTM 350 problems. And one of the issues with the KTM is this plastic freaking oil pump idle gear. I don't know why they put a plastic gear in there. I guess it's got something to do with driveline slack or something. But apparently that particular gear is a problem on the 250 350. According to the video that I watched, KTM has an updated part. The last three numbers are 100. Has a fiber impregnation, as I understand it, rather than just a plain plastic phenolic material. So I'm gonna pull that out, of course, and see exactly what's going on there and make sure that's the updated gear. If not, I'm definitely gonna put the updated gear in. The clutch, by the way, looked pretty good. I didn't make any measurements on it as I pulled it out. The next thing I did, obviously drain the oil so I could pull all this off. And the oil's dirty, but you know, it's probably 10 hours on it, so it's time to change it anyway. I pulled the water pump cover off. I don't know if you can see this, but it is apparently a dowel pin of some sort. It is magnetic. Have no idea where this came from. I did not build this engine. It was previously rebuilt by somebody else. This was in the impeller housing, and you can see there's some damage down inside the impeller housing. But the real problem is this. We lost the water pump, and when you don't have a water pump, it's going to run hot and it's going to do some damage. That seems to be what happened to us yesterday. I'm going to get this thing apart. I'm relieved that the oil pump gear is still intact, so at least we shouldn't have any damage up in the cam journals on the cylinder head. Probably just have a heat seized piston. I'm gonna cut the camera off and pull this thing apart, and I will show you what damage we actually ended up with. Hopefully it's just going to be a piston and cylinder and naturally a water pump, because that water pump is trash. And you know, this thing's made a lot of noise in the bottom end for a long time. It went away with the clutch, so I was guessing that maybe it had something to do with the clutch itself, but evidently it may have been something else. Obviously we have something rattling around in the water pump impeller, and that's not a good thing. So I'm going to cut the camera off here and get this puppy apart, and when I figure out what's wrong with it, I'll cut the camera back on and record what I found. Okay, so it's several hours later, and I've obviously pulled the bike apart a little further than it really needs to go, but there's some other things I need to do while it's broken down. I determined that what the problem was, the water pump impeller came loose from the balance shaft. It goes right here. It's supposed to be a nut holding that on. What I thought was a dowel pin inside the water pump housing was actually the retaining nut that was supposed to hold it on. So what happened is the retaining nut for the water pump impeller for some reason backed off. The impeller finally got loose, locked up with all that thing flying around in there, and it toasted the balance shaft. The cylinder is actually fine. You know, the piston and rings look good. Everything in the bottom is nice and loose and lubricated. However, due to the amount of trash from this top end, these cases have got to come apart. This engine's got to be completely cleaned up. the intake cam is solidly seized in the cam journals. I could beat it out with a hammer, I suppose, but it's in there pretty good. There's a breather of some sort that goes right here. This thing got hot enough to where it melted, and a lot of the material from this is all in the bottom end. The cylinder head is pretty much damaged right here. You can see all the melted rubber and stuff that's in there. The cam journals, of course, are toasted. It's going to need a new cylinder head and a few more parts to get it all back together. I'm going to try to locate a used cylinder head that's in good shape. Put some rings in it, tear this thing completely down, clean it all up, put it back together. And there's a few other things on the bike that need to be taken care of, but that's what happened. The cylinder head just overheated, seized the camshaft, caused some serious issues.